maybe this means there's not a blocker immediately, right, to the male flows um, as well, right? Maybe we're working alongside each other um, before having that functional and symbolic coming together. I don't know, but it's just a lot to throw on the table, but I think it is relevant just in the sense of like, does this, how much should be blocking the flows of either side? The language that we've heard from the Longhouse recently is we're trying to come together on Men's Declaration or Life Protectors Declaration to go alongside the Life Givers Declaration of the Women's Nation, which will likely be just a long-winded way of saying what they said. We say what they said, but also this language of setting up a campfire next to their, outside of their campfire until we're invited in. Right, the same way that like if you're a nation visiting another nation or a nation passing by another nation's territory, right? You don't just walk in and assume that you're invited. And so maybe there's a similar thing that we can do that also unblocks us. If, as Ryder posed, the hypothetical, if there is no session on the Women's Clan side, but if we were together, let's say we were invited in, I think it definitely would be a blocker, right? But it would also be a dropping of responsibilities too, right? Especially once we have representatives, right? Whether the meetings don't happen on the men's side or whether the meetings don't happen on the women's side. If there's folks that have opted into that responsibility, which for us nobody has, outside of a collective opt-in to wanting to see all of this through, nobody's opted into all that extra effort that representatives do have in terms of facilitating things amongst their clans. And so that's just I think a responsibility we're all going to kind of have to make up for each other in whenever we see we need help in the time being before we have any representatives in place. Yeah, those are good questions.
When I imagine like issues being raised or things happening in the ecosystem, I kind of imagine some sort of like a dashboard or just like something outside the server that like is sort of a beacon that's like, hey, this is happening. And it's kind of like, these are the people that are engaged in it. But like as a way to like signal and raise awareness. I feel like I have a hard time inside the server making sense of what's going on, which issues are raised or top or where they're at kind of. This is like daydreaming space down the road, but I do see myself having a hard time being able to like hold the awareness without like diving through channels and reading everybody's back and forths and kind of like making sure I'm all caught up. Like how do we flow in and out of the ecosystem without wasting a bunch of spoons getting caught up to speed, or I don't know. I think about that because every time I disengage a little bit and come back, I have a lot to like catch up on and reintegrate in, and I try to do as much as I can to sense make between the spaces, but whenever we do gather, we talk for a really long time and like things shift a little bit, and it's like not always like clear to me where the changes kind of happen. So I kind of just I spend a lot of time listening to try to make sure that I'm like still following.
Yeah, for sure. I think active issues can help that. Once we start flowing in it. But you made me think of something else, right? Like the almost like a processing, a work in processing, work in progress type of notification or something. That's even more outward facing. That it kind of signifies when a given representative is working on turning an issue into a proposal, right? And maybe they're working alongside the person as well that lodged it, which I think would usually be the case. And you know, a lot of that can start from what is this open discussion, or what might be an arbitrary channel in the server might spark a given issue being raised or discussed in the community. And I don't know, it would kind of be able to guide folks through the server even more if they were interested in a given issue. Even before the issue was all the way formulated, there was a way of notifying that this is here's the threads relevant to the issue in progress, right? I think it might get choppy in notifications around like everything attempted to be lodged, or everything that somebody feels should be an issue, because for example, somebody very new to the ecosystem might think something is an issue that isn't an issue, and it takes the WWOOF representative looking at it to be able to juxtapose it next to core community values or other goings on in the ecosystem, and say that not necessarily relevant to go through our clan flows, right? Which could be the case very often. So as long as we distinguish between some of those flows, which is a big part of the rep responsibilities, and the flows that are more more speaking to the issues that are like a sure thing, right? And then this allows for folks to kind of sift through the server, or sift through threads in the server that are relevant to that given issue. That makes sense. Maybe it's outward facing on a website or something like this as well, right? I don't know, but I think it does make sense even to gauge how active a given community is, or how important the issues are that are being raised, right? It's a good metric, right, for outward facing metric even. But also internally, it's nice for someone like yourself to come in, if you haven't been in for a while, and find your place where folks left off around important issues. In the calls, I think there can be some documentation. There could be some documentation efforts beyond just the recordings. I think you guys have done a nice job of flows with that in the past, in source code communities and things like this, ensuring folks can tap into what was said in the dialogue. I think that might be a little harder to do for us as is.
Even if it was just like if it was just like everyone talking, and like you realize like what shifted on the call, and then just having like a comment in the comments that's like what shifted, and it's just like what kind of moved around a little bit. But I want to rescind the dashboard comment, because that's not even what I see in my head. I imagine a pulse, like a heartbeat, and I imagine up and down rhythms, like I'm picturing my daughter's heart stuff. And I just imagine like tapping into like wondering what, like where the health is at, sort of. And it's just like, an upbeat, like what are we excited about, or what's buzzing, and then like maybe like if there's something really bad, maybe that's on a downbeat, and then like anything else that's like mid-lane conflict is kind of like in the mid-range. It's just like kind of a normal whatever, but seeing that there's like something else going on with the pulse. And then if the community is more busy, maybe the heartbeat's like quicker, or maybe it's slower if it's a lower pace. But I guess that's kind of the dashboard I see in my head. It's not really like, I said dashboard, and I was like, that might sound really like boring looking. That's not what I'm seeing.
No, for sure, the heartbeat does sound fly. No, yeah, I see what you're saying now too. It's not necessarily about issues going through decision-making processes, but even like what's happening in these sense-making sessions, major shifts and things like this, as you mentioned.
Yeah,
I,
the
I
up
think,
and down things would be like little blips, and it'd be like you could click on that and see what the thing is that's there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure how it can be done technically, but it's definitely something worth putting some effort into if we want to. Also, it's not dissimilar from how I've been thinking. I even asked one of Primavera's PhD students who's in the Dada sessions. I noticed the way that she keeps notes in the Dada sessions is it's very similar to what you just mentioned, right? Like trying to keep tabs on important shifts or general vibes even. And so I had originally made a template for documenting what's happening in these sense-making sessions in our GitHub repo. But I was thinking of adding to that, and maybe GitHub being so inaccessible. What you mentioned in terms of the interface, the user interface and experience is much more exciting just a normal dashboard. Would make sense to maybe attach to the goings on in the issues of that repo. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how. I'm the wrong person to ask how to technically pull it off, but if I'm sure it's something that we can sink our teeth into if we want to, particularly if you want to lead the way, Al. I know it's really important. As you say, you're right. These sessions can get long, and there are the beauty of the sessions is the big shifts that happen in the sessions, right, or the big implementations that come out of the sessions, and they are eventually going to the active issues, but this is a way of getting engagement, before it even gets to that stage. So maybe it lends itself to even more participation being engendered in active issues too. But yeah, how's that spark anything technically in mind? I don't know. I think you might be the only dev on the call besides Aloe herself.
I lost you guys. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I think Aloe was just speaking on general documentation of these type of sessions and user experience and things that we can do along with that. She mentioned like unconventional dashboard that's akin to a heartbeat, showing activity changes in the server, or being a way for folks to tap into major shifts in these sessions even. And at first I thought they were referring to active issues specifically because we were kind of speaking on that a little bit. But I realized it was more of a general means of just tapping into our sense making, or even a precursor to the active issues in terms of engendering participation. And I don't know. I mentioned connecting, documentation of these sessions to that to an interface of some kind. I don't know, but I think it may have just been an idea from Ella right on the fly that maybe we can come back to later. But it sounded important, right? Just for, as Ella was saying, it's almost like that calculus class or that high math class. You miss one day and you feel like you're way behind in the textbook. How do we prevent that from happening in our sessions, right? I think it's one of the hardest things to address. We've heard the Dada folks kind of go back and forth with this a lot. And there really is no substitute for just being in the sessions, but there's nothing wrong with trying to do our due diligence in some creative ways. So we're just throwing it on the table, Haas, maybe Hero, I saw you unmuted. I don't know if I cut you off. So
Yeah, so I've been listening. So I just want to bring the practical side to this conversation, because uh, like going back, rolling back a few conversations earlier, what Ryder said was quite true in terms of, um, like in theory, like it's good, like how we want to get people together, and that sounds great. But when it actually comes to doing it on the ground, we do like counter like difficulties, so to speak. It's really hard to get people together. It's hard to get people to be more active, and which we kind of know. But my point is like, um, I'm trying to find a solution to that. So the way I can think about it is, um, because we can just let things see how they go naturally. But I'm just a little bit concerned if we do not take more practical stance to try and move some of the things on. It will keep going, and you will just see where it take us, and we don't know where it will take us. So I'm almost like more would be more advocating for some practical solution going forward, um, such as if you're talking about many people aren't assigned to wolves, we don't have enough wolves, so most people are defaulted to bear when they come in, and yes, they can just in theory get on and let them being one of the clans at some point. Instead, what I would probably advocate for is actually we go around making sure that people assigned to one of this clan, um, by you just double check there's nobody left out. And for example, what I would have probably done if it were me, I would probably say, okay, so in July, by end of July, we want to have everybody properly assigned. And for example, we were all talking about selection, not election, whichever way I can't remember. Election, not selection. Oh wait, let me check. Oh, selection. Se- Selection, not election. And yes, if we just keep sense making, it will just keep going like with the unknown date. So what about if we said the date would be sometimes in August, say, I don't know, second week of August, like there is some sort of selection, or I'm just trying to put some actions by a certain time so these things actually take place instead of a lot of the conversations are just ongoing conversations and they don't become something concrete. So I'm trying to figure out ways so that some of these conversations can become concrete. For example, the conversation we're having in Wolf Clan is like, oh, does anybody want to take things on? But like, when is it going to happen? We don't know. Um, do we want to put some sort of date down so that it becomes something more practical and actionable? Because if we don't, these conversation can go on for longer than just indefinitely. Um, that's how I'm feeling now. Like some of the things happening are going on indefinitely. Maybe it will get done tomorrow, but maybe in 3 weeks. I have no idea. Um, and yeah, I think, and just adding to the practical stuff that I'm finding challenging is, for example, we have it's great, like we can say gather the wolf, and they can raise the issues with each other, with men or women or within men and all that. But what's actually happening is, I posted something just in last week, I think. Sorry, a few days ago, whether anybody wanna um, take on the active issue at some point instead of myself. Um, but like out of 9 people, I only got one reply. So it is quite like difficult. Like in theory, you would think like more people would be more active and participate, but in reality, people are everywhere here and there. And I can understand like in the tribal context, they all live together, they all eat together, so it's much easier for them to get together. But in the internet world, when we are trying to apply that system and conversation or dialogue to everybody, like we don't even know where each other lives, and people can easily come and go. We don't eat together, we don't live together, so it becomes super dispersed. And we can also say, yeah, just let it sense make in the wild, but um, but it poses challenges if we just let it go on without any um, something to turn that into actionable item by certain time. Just trying to be practical about it. So that would be my my experience so far to share.
No, yeah, of course. I think I think it's a similar response, that I gave to Ryder, right? Like, uh, the, the actual coordination of everybody is going to have to get as intricate as, are you really just going to default to Bear Clan, or, can we place you in one of these clans? That's why I did mention it in the response. And I think that's what it's going to have to take. I don't know if there's any other way around it. Even if we, just said scratch all the native modes, right? And we just said, let's just apply corporate democracy. You still have 1-2% participation rate, right? And it's a problem in general when it comes to decision making and governance in modern systems, and even in the native context. I mean, even the native context that we refer to, right? It's hard to engender participation because of a general system that says your participation isn't really valuable, right? And so it's really hard, I think, to come out of that, right? There's no easy solution to it, even if we just try to do it the most conventional ways, right? And but to your points of making, hard dates and trying to achieve them, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? If you did have a wolf representative, right, on the male side of clans, right, and in trying to coordinate people, he gave people dates that would be best for him, right, in terms of trying to facilitate things. As somebody who's opting into that responsibility, I don't think it's much to ask of of the folks that are opting into the responsibility to try to make some of those dates. But again, that's somebody who's opted into all of that responsibility, and so the 1 out of 9 is actually makes sense, right? In terms of somebody opting into all that extra effort, and for the meantime, it's also not compensated, which I don't think we do want to incentivize through compensation that type of representation of voices, right? it's nice that if it is just intrinsically motivated, even if it is just 1 out of 9, and I think that is, you know, even if we do try even if the folks, as we continue this forward, there are folks who say, okay, I'm gonna set hard dates as I try to get this done. It's yeah, I think that would be completely fine, but it's there's opting into all of that effort that still has to be done, right? Like there is there's no way around it, and I think the things that do emerge organically out of that, even if it is counterintuitive maybe, or there's hard dates, it seems like conventional project management. I don't think it necessarily is, particularly if we're all still in this context of bottom-up systems design and commons design, right? And I think that that 1 out of 9, right, might be the best of us, right? And so there's this is what I mean by even in some of without having representatives in the meantime, the representatives might emerge really quickly, because we realize, okay, these are only people even like opting into this anyway, right? And they're doing it well, so, and it's temporary anyway, so here we are. And so, even about the hard date for the representative selection, right? Like I said, if we all of a sudden had an election date, right? And we were in conventional corporate democratic structures, we would still have a horrible turnout for the election of somebody, right? Even if we put intentionally incentives there that are pure monetary, right? You still have poor turnouts in terms of governance structures and things like this. So. But one of the things that is distinct from bottom-up systems and top-down systems is that we only need the best of us to opt in, right? And they're opting into the due diligence of representing as accurately as possible the voices of each other. So it's there is still that distinction, right? But yeah, I don't know if this answers it, or if the hard dates are the resolution going forward. But I think most of the solution is, no matter what structure you're referring to, or what mechanisms that you're using, is opt-in, right? It's that that both individual and collective responsibility to the collective, right? And that's true for like somebody at the top of a boardroom, right? They feel some type of responsibility to profit margins, right? But for us, we feel responsibility for long-term sustainability, working and living in authentically different structures, But I don't know. I guess I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to project manage with hard dates for the that are up to date.
I agree with you, and I think it does answer some of my questions. And actually, I wasn't implying that I have a solution. I'm more like trying to communicate the current challenges I'm seeing. So it's more like bringing the current challenges to the awareness of everybody in this call. So that's point number one. And point number two is I can think of one of the many solutions to try and get that kicked off a little bit quicker. But by no means, I don't think that's like the solution at all. So it does make sense from what you're saying. Like, I can see how, what you said makes sense. That's what I'm saying. I guess it's just like yeah, like something perhaps would be useful to have to get things going a little bit quicker. Because what I'm saying is there are many tasks in this Stacks Advocates, in addition to all these active issues that need to brought to the table, and all those other um, pillars and stuff, they all also need some sort of coordination and moving forward. So with so many different elements of Stacks Advocates, how do we get every pillar moving? Um, yeah,
Yeah. I think it makes sense. I mean, even if there's hard dates involved, right? Like, as long as it's not coming from like just me or just you,
oh
or
right, I
like
see. Yeah,
like for all of the clans, like it's as long as those clans are deciding for themselves the hard dates, right? Or
yeah,
but the like
yeah, I
the
see.
point the hard thing is
It's not like dictated to the people, but agreed and consensus by the people.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's if if even if it's just the two Wolf Clan representatives, right?
Right, okay.
Um, is even if it's just the two Wolf Clan representatives facilitating things, which we don't have now, right?
Yeah,
But so maybe it's just two people from anywhere, right?
right.
Really trying to facilitate the other clans coming together. Um, uh, you know, it, the hard part is getting the opt-in across all of those different clans. But if we have, hopefully, if we have opt-in just with two representatives or two people from anywhere, this even in the coordinating and getting folks into clans that don't have clans, you might find somebody who's willing to opt into the continued help of facilitating things, right?
Yeah.
But
Maybe that's a
it,
good start because I'm not sure if we have a full list of people and if those full list of people are actually correctly allocated. If they are not, then yeah, might be useful to have some more potential wolves.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the hard date, right? Like the hard date for the for the for the wolves, right? That they put out for the rest of the clans might stay true for the wolves that initiated, but maybe it's just included that that date can be slightly different for the folks
Yeah,
who
yeah.
who are coming along after. But to have a hard date to like set something around, I don't think would be wrong.
I don't even think it's like hard date. I think it's more like a soft date because a soft date is almost more can easily be can be easier contextualized in your head than no date, if you get what I mean. It's not like setting
Right.
hard date as such, it's more like a soft date
Mhm, mhm.
and then no
For sure.
date. I think there's a difference.
For sure. Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with the soft dates, and especially if it makes things feel that much, uh, uh, more tangible on the ground, more practical, right? It's not something we haven't already done, right? When doing the survey and things like this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We
Yeah, I think something like that would help. I don't know. That's just my opinion because,
no,
uh,
I think it helped before.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But to be fair to everybody, right? Like, even yourself, right? With the post a few days ago, right? Like today was a genuinely, like we genuinely needed to look over this particular issue, again, and include it into the one pager and whatnot. So, you know, it's taken some time to get these particular issues rounded off as well, right? Which is something to take note of too. That happens with the lack of representatives, right? Who also, there's kind of like built-in soft times, right? Just in the weeks and the months, right? The cycles of the year. So like representatives in native context are meeting throughout each cycle, throughout each month, and so depending on what is best for their schedule, right? They're meeting throughout that month, and it's that's kind of the soft dates that are in place, and so hope maybe we can achieve a similar thing to keep the flow going.
Yeah.
But I think again, it's a byproduct of not having representatives who kind of have that internal clock, right? Pushing them forward in terms of getting these issues rounded off by a certain time, so they can get in through their plans through a certain time. But I think that's the type of internal clock we're going to have to have as a collective before we have the representatives in place. But
like in my opinion, I think I don't know about what everybody else thinks, but might be good to set some sort of soft date even for the selection or election, because if we don't have any idea, I think say for example, if we don't have some more official representative, it could go on another month, little bit unknown for like a month or two, and then it's like another month or two sort of up in the air a little bit, whereas we could utilize those couple of months if we actually had one. But I'm not saying like that has to be, but just the thought like how we can maximize. But maybe I'm being quite efficient.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right. I think maybe that's how I envision it, but not necessarily saying it out loud. But once, particularly like these are like important fundamental issues to get through. Maybe particularly the oral constitution, a way of bringing us together in real-time sessions. More so than we ever have before, and getting important concepts across to each other in some type of continuous mind, right? It should be perfect timing for temporary selection of representatives, right? So the soft date can be like, okay, maybe we start getting together an issue proposal specific to representative selection, right? And that should be ready to queue up as soon as those first three are through. That one goes up, and that could be a way of ensuring that we don't stagnate without representatives that have that internal clock for another month or so, which I agree can just easily happen, right?
I think it would be quite cool to tag on to the oral code of conduct. It's not like, even if it happens like 6 months after oral conduct, it almost doesn't matter. But my point is having something in having not an excuse to tag on, but yeah, something like, oh, here, we can follow that on instead of being unknown. So yeah, I think that oral code of conduct might be a good opportunity if you think like it's worth having it. Yeah. And also, like, I want to go back to what Alo said about status of things. I know she talked about polls and stuff. I have a more practical solution, like a more easy solution. It's more like just status of each pillar of work. For example, like I think the writer wrote out like a list of pillars, or I call them verticals. So we can simply put them onto some sort of like as a first step. before we get to the polls, you know, better looking ones. But first most basic level, we can put them onto DWork or some sort of project management tool. Like I think I also suggested Monday before. And we can simply put a status thing next to each topic. So a topic like oral code of conduct, next to it, like the status could say, like ready and meeting in 1 week. That would be a simple status for everybody. They can know that whenever 24 hours, 7 days a week, they can just jump in and see this is the status for oral code of conduct. And also, for example, like something else like upskilling and tooling, I guess is something Merrick was touching on. That could be the status of that could be like early discussion, need to figure out bringing actual tools to Stacks Advocate. So with each pillar, there's a status for each thing. So no matter where you are or whenever you want to check into Stacks Advocate, you can always see each pillar's progress or status or pulse. That's my thought on Alo's question about how to know like where things evolve to as of latest, and that can be updated as and when there is new update or when it evolves to something a little bit new. Just wonder what you guys think.
Thank you, Hero. I just want to say thank you.
Does that make sense?
I like what you said.
Did I?
Yeah.
Like,
Sorry about the noise.
Like
I
glossary,
visualized
like maybe
each-
glossary, for example, right? We could have not started yet. That could be the state. I know we started already, but I'm just saying for the sake of an example. So each heading, each topic has a status of where things are for that specific topic. So you can, like, even if you were disconnected for like for a month, when you come back, you can see like in 5 minutes or 2 minutes each topic's progress. I mean, I can do it like a mock-up.
No, I totally get what you're saying. I've talked to other communities about this too, and like some people have instituted rhythms of like once a week or every couple of days having like a channel that they post like an update, kind of like all their teams, like what they're working on or what they need help with, like what has moved and what hasn't or something like that. But,
yeah, maybe I'll do something up on DWork or the other project management too. I know the Monday, and you guys can see if it's useful or not. But I think something even simpler might be sufficient.
Yeah. No, thank you kindly, Hero and Elo. Yeah, I think that can be a more practical way of trying to do the due diligence, at least, of keeping folks up to date, as you guys say. But yeah, some good dialogue here. Good to see you as well, Nat. I think today we just went over some of the last parts of the diagram that you've been looking over with us for the last couple of weeks now, and I think we're pretty much rounding off on that, and we spent a lot of time today discussing, paths forward in terms of the active issues and engendering participation and things like this, and we kind of arrived at using some soft dates to now that we have this third issue kind of rounding off now, we can kind of do the due diligence of coordinating folks, and there's a lot of ins and outs of this, right? Getting folks into clans who aren't in clans, maybe sifting through maybe an ever-growing bear clan as well, and seeing if folks do identify with any of the other clans through their intrinsic traits or motivations. And we recognized, without representatives particularly, these things can kind of just go on indefinitely. And, one of the benefits of having representatives is kind of this built-in soft scheduling, right, for issues to be both lodged and formulated into proposals for dissemination through the clans, right? This would happen pretty much on a monthly basis, right, if we had representatives in place. But when you don't have folks who have opted into all of that responsibility, and it is a lot of responsibility, these things can kind of just linger on. And I don't know if we should be too hard on ourselves as it relates to some of these last weeks. I think we were pretty quick in getting the active issues flow, or trying to use it the first time around, after having our first issue to really sink our teeth into, thanks to Juliet and Hero going into the conflict resolution issue so thoroughly. And it didn't take long before, once that was ready for it to get up into active issues. And after, we didn't have roles to really get those flows going, we found ourselves with a couple more issues on our plates that we wanted to, flesh out and make sure they're ready the same way that the conflict resolution proposal was ready. And, it's something for folks to sink their teeth into. And so that kind of, that's dragged out over most of the time, but it's a lot of effort that none of us can kind of force on any of us, right? It's the type of effort in terms of taking a proposal and formulating it into taking an issue and formulating it into a proposal that is aligned with the collective, determining whether it's relevant or not. All of that would normally be representative work. But it's kind of fallen on the collective, and so understandably it gets spread out across more time as well, right? Because nobody's opted into getting this done within a given amount of time. None of us can really, in a bottom-up system, tell anybody to do so. So this is. But if folks feel intrinsically motivated to do it, right, there's nobody going to stop them either, right? And so I think this is where the bulk of time has went, right, in between using the tooling so far. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, right? I think it would be a bad thing if we weren't doing anything at all in that meantime. But in fact, we were preparing ourselves to use it even more, right? The tooling. So I think it's a nice spot where we're at in terms of having a few issues ready to go through the flow. And the final thing that we talked about, Nat, was a soft date for actually selecting temporary representatives as well, right? So those of us that we consider the best of us when it comes to knowing our mind, knowing it's a good mind in terms of honestly and accurately representing the collective's voice, right, for their respective clans. And so we figured that, right after we get done with these issues going through the flows, that would be a nice time to potentially get up an issue that kickstarts the selection of temporary representatives. Hoping that that doesn't drag on for too much longer, so that we can avoid some of the stretched out periods of time where we're formulating proposals or other coordination efforts that whatever representatives will be opting into by that time. So that's pretty much where we left off. But yeah, thank you kindly for joining us. It's good to see you as always.
Yeah, man. Always good to see you. Always good to hear from you, dear brother, and everybody else in here. Aloysius, I haven't seen you for a minute. I know I've been in and out. Um, Hero, yeah, always good to speak with you, Ryder. Thanks for giving me a little bit of a knee-jerk reminder there as well. Because I've just, mate, I had a bit of a madness earlier on. Me and Doc were working, and I left the house, and then got caught up in somebody else's shit. So yeah, and coming in cooking quite late. Merrick as well. Big up, man. Every time I jump in, I just love to hear what's going on. Love to know that each one of us are trying to do different things to contribute. And that's just one of the best things about Stacks anyway, that everybody is trying to contribute in some way, shape or form. And this what has been going on with you guys and what you guys have been doing is really gonna benefit to help and serve all of those people that are actually wanting to get deeper into the ecosystem and to do more as well, and to help others, and so on and so forth. Jumping in a bit late, as I said. It's also good to hear the updates from today. I do want to catch up with you, Harold, anyway, and with you, Hero, anyway, because as you guys know, I'm trying to push for this August event to be a lot more about the Stacks community and development. So I want to kind of take the people that attend this event and really kind of sit them into you guys' minds as well, with what's going on with the actual Advocates program, because I think this is something that, as I said previously, like, I don't see, and I haven't seen, and I'm not going to probably see anywhere else. And there's so many people talking about Web3 communities here, there, and everywhere, and these types of community and that type of community. And then it's like, how do people find consensus within these communities and within these DAOs? And the fact that you guys are just so far ahead, as I've said many a time, Harold as well, for the writing and the research, it's absolutely crazy. And I think that this is one of the sleeping giants of Stacks. It's literally one of the sleeping giants of Stacks, that once you start to tell other people and break this down to other people, they're really going to want to join this ecosystem, because they see it as a place where everybody has that voice and everybody has that input, and it's very hard to get that across to people when there's, my mate bought BNB or he bought whatever else, and that's the great ecosystem right now because somebody else told me that, I trust. Seeing that the level of kind of thought that goes into verification and decentralizing, and making things trustless again with a human consensus. Those things there are just like not even being considered on half of these chains. So it's just like, yeah, it's absolutely amazing, man. And I'm glad to fucking be a part of it, like I always say.
Thank you, Colin. Really appreciate it. Your kind words always, man. It's you're always a big vote of confidence. We spent a lot of today kind of talking about the arduous parts of coordinating and facilitating, people's power, right? Their voice, essentially, right? Their participation in decision-making processes, which, it's been a good time today, talking about how gloomy that can be, right? In conventional structures, and even, the structures we're trying to engender, given it's not the predominant, atmosphere people are familiar with, right? And so when the lack of voice is ubiquitous, it's I think it can be almost like this, have this shock value, right? To say you have voice, but there's also, I think, this insidious doubt, or this unconscious doubt, right? Because when you're not exposed to something, you just have in mind what you are exposed to, even if it's something that you're newly exposed to. So it's really hard to come out of that. But in all the things that we discussed today, is how hard that is, and your kind words are a good reminder. the tools at our hand to make ourselves distinct, to make the voice feel tangible, right? The empowerment be felt and tangible, and it's the clan design in particular, right, is intricately tied to intrinsic traits and motivations, and it's been real, as I said recently, comforting to hear the Longhouse use this same language, right, about the clan system, how it's these intrinsic traits that it's designed around, and I think that is something that it could be fairly rare to see in a space or any space. Even tribal or band councils have Turtle Wolf in there, but they put Turtle in the Wolf's position, right? There's a mixing up of the protocols, or a loss of the protocols, and so we see that there's this. It's not just in being able to tie distributed power to intrinsic traits of incentives or motivation, but it's also very. We can also make that consensus tangible because we have the sequencing intact, right? We have the protocols intact. So, not unlike some of the notions about autonomy that we've been learning together, the notions of commons that we've been learning together, there's something, really special potentially, right? As we're coordinating and almost anticipating a similar lack of participation, I think we can depend on these functional mechanisms built into the clan design to make ourselves distinct, right? Make ourselves distinct from the same old lip service, and hopefully it makes us distinct in the level of participation as well. I think it's really easy for all of us, any of us, to just get justifiably or rationally pessimistic about participation in decision-making processes, or having your voice actually heard, or having a lot of voices heard, right? I think it's justified in the sense we look around us and we see governance systems where this is the reality. It almost feels like wishful thinking, or illusions of grandeur, right? To think that we can do anything different, right? But again, I think that's an exposure thing. And so your kind words are an important direction that, no matter what part of the meeting that they come in at, because of this reminder, right? I think it's really it's really easy for myself as well to just kind of get a little overwhelmed with some of those realities, right? But I think something I've been saying for a long time is that you should be pessimistic about a system, the system that we're in. It makes sense to be pessimistic, but it's not as rational to be pessimistic when you're genuinely trying to step off of that same old ideological spectrum of organization, and because then you're talking about real life. I think that's real life, right? I think the commons, regenerative commons of abundance, and distributed power in the distribution of that abundance is life, right? That's why we're all here, and it's not so rational to be pessimistic in that context. And I think that's what the clan design and how seriously we're taking, how we're organizing ourselves in these structures. I think that's what it can offer, not just for us, but for folks coming in, and hopefully, it can be it can be felt, you know. But yeah, so thank you, everybody. I know we've been here for a while, and I guess I just wanted to throw that in there as a